page 636. Thank you, John, Hans. Shabbat Shalom. It's great to have you here with us here. It's great to have those of you who are watching at home here on this Shabbat. I want to welcome Russ Schultz on the beam, our president, Sauvey Cooper, a member of the board of directors of the temple, on the bema here with each of you on this Shabbat. Of course, this Shabbat is Jewish Ghost Story Shabbat. And yes, I found a Shabbat lantern. I didn't make that. I can't carve that well. But we did pass those out as you came in. However, for those of you who just came to say Kaddish or welcome Shabbat and said, don't worry. We will be joining in Shabbat worship, and we'll get through Kaddish, and then we will turn to our Jewish Ghost Story section of our service. But it is our custom for those of you at home or those of you who've stumbled across this service, it is our custom on the Friday before Shabbat to share a little bit of Jewish ghost story and superstition. That is an area that has existed in the folk for centuries, but has been rediscovered often by people who are studying and learning. Oral historians digging up the past. You're not going to really get a sermon tonight. I've done that enough other years. Tonight we're just going to stick to a couple of ghost stories for this particular Shabbat. We'll get there later. I do want to mention a couple of things. First, Tuesday night, November 2nd, at 4:30 is a reception honoring Susie Kunzman as our administrator for 30 plus years of service. So I want to remind you once again how important that day will be if you're comfortable coming and joining us here. Also, I want to remind you that there is a vote this Tuesday, not a temple vote. On your way to the reception, stop and vote. No one's on the ballot. Which is why many of us are concerned that 22 people will decide future policies in Fort Worth. I just pulled that number out. So do take the time to vote this Tuesday if you haven't voted early. There are a number of measures and on there. One is an amendment to religious freedom that I change my opinion every day, pro and con. I can't figure out which will be worse for synagogues. But also there is a bond measure. If you are of the belief that we have a certain responsibility to, while rates are low, to use these bonds to repair and restore to excellence our poorer public schools, vote. If you don't agree with me about where our budgeting should go, vote against it. But whatever your stance, go and vote and take your position. It's really, really important. Some of the most important local decisions take place in off years when no one shows up to vote. So if nothing else, your vote should be cast on, I think it's 9 amendments that really will affect quality of life in Texas and Fort Worth. Now, leaving that aside, we prepare for Shabbat. Before we prepare for Shabbat, we take a moment to say Modim Anachnu Lach. Modim Anachnu Lach comes from a prayer later in our prayer book of Thanksgiving, in which we say, "Oh God, thank you for our lives and our blessings, our mornings and noons and evenings. Modim anachnu lach sha'atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'lehei avotenu v'imotenu." O God of our mothers and fathers, we ask your thanks. On this Friday night, we ask our prayers of thanks for our health, for our country, for warmth and joy, for leaves that will soon be falling, for shortening days made bright by the light of Shabbat, by children who will be once again ringing our doorbells with smiles and joy, for the changing of the seasons, for our fireplaces will once again soon get usage, for the joy of this changing time that reminds us of our bounty. We say, Modim Anachnu Lach. As we turn to page 120, as we bring in the joy of Shabbat, and we ask Samay Cooper to lead us in the lighting of Shabbat candles.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher k'dishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Page 124. And if you have one of the thinner prayer books, the Shabbat only instead of weekday, I will be calling out page numbers that are in brackets if you see two sets of page numbers in your prayer book. Let's read responsively at the bottom of the page as we continue to welcome Shabbat. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. Thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
And so we offer thanks to God for this Shabbat, which unites us in friendship and love, brings light to us in darkness, and inspires us to sacred living. We turn to page 142. Please join with us in the words of Shalom Aleichem. May we bring Shabbat into our midst.
Shalom
Aleichem Malachei Hashar, Malachei Elyon. Please sing with us. Mi melech malachei hamlach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moachem shalom malachei shalom malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We turn to page 146. We rise for the Baruch Hu, remain standing through Shema. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. We continue together on page 147 at the top. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all words, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless as we turn to page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious kingdom forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. We turn to page 155 as we read V'ahavta together in English. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Give them work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them in the doorway of your house, outside your gates. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Page 158, we sing the song our ancestors sang, marching from slavery to freedom as they stood at the edge of the waters of freedom. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, no tehillah ose fele, no tehillah ose fele. Malchutecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'amidenu shomrenu l'chaim. Page 160, we read together in English. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our coming and coming, to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 162. Thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night. Eternity utters a day. Adonai, open our lips that our mouths may declare your praise. We rise on the next page. We turn to tefillah. We join together. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagdol HaGibor El Elyon, Omer Chasadim Tovim, Vekone Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Omevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Man Shmo Yahava, Melech Ozer, U'Moshiach U'Makim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magiyah, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Ve'akol Atah Le'Moshiach, Mechakeh Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Zomer Navrim Ve'Rofech Holim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayeh Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Michamocha Al Gevurot, U'Migdol Melach, Melech Memit, U'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'Chachadot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Atah Kadosh, V'Shimcha Kadosh, V'Kadoshim B'Kol Yom Yalu Chaseda, Baruch Atah Adonai, El HaKadosh. Page 173 together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Please be seated. Feel free to continue on your own for the next 6 pages or to take time for your own silent prayer and reflection. Shalom Aleinu Ve'Yakol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Shalom We offer a prayer for all who are broken, for all who are in need, for all who seek shleimut, that shalom of wholeness, for those who are ill and those who watch over them. We mention the names of Len Anthony, Robert Bogan, Fred Boyd, Gordon Brody, Maria Schoen, Karen Delavan, Kevin Delavan, Robert Diamond, Brittany Elaine Drake, Charlotte Fiwas, Harry Phillip, Mike Fox, Clark Freeby, Sherry Goldstein, Corey Hartman, Stacy Lewis, Christopher Long, Gary Mann, Terry Mann, Myron Morgan, Sophie O'Brien, Jody Platt, Katrina Joy Rogers, Marty Rubinson, Eddie Sankary, Bob Schmitz, Lee Schultz, Renee Stanton, Amy Stein, Neil Tannenhouse, Sarah Tova, Deborah Lovell, William Westerman, Ann Westerman, Judith Zimmerman, Leonard Furstenfeld, Dan Gestering, and any names you might wish to add as I look your way. Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu, God, our fathers and mothers, be a rofei hacholim, a source of healing and strength to all who are in need. Before we turn to Aleinu, last week was our reading of Torah, our Shabbat birthday blessing of the month, but I'm told we have one more name we want to throw out. Anybody have a name they want to throw out? No? Nobody's son's having a big birthday? No. Bill, happy birthday. She's looking at me like, you know what to do. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to get there. So happy birthday. We want to all wish you a happy birthday on this special time together with your family. We're not just going to make you rise. We're going to make everybody rise as we turn to Olenu. But we're wishing you a happy birthday as we rise. I was told not to embarrass you, but to wish you a happy birthday by your mother. You're never told. I don't know how she planned to pull that off, but it was her idea. I'm throwing her back under the bus. So a year of health and joy and blessing as we all face the ark and turn to page 586. Please be seated, even though we will ask you to rise again in just a moment. It is the custom for many in this congregation to rise upon hearing the name of a loved one whose yortzeit or shloshim is observed. And so we remember them all at this time. We ask God to watch over them, all those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those our neighbors and friends have lost, all whose lives have been a blessing. As we remember them on this Shabbat, we turn to page 598. We mention Shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning, for Miriam Mimi Grossman, George Sepp, and Bess Gaines. In addition, we mention the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of their deaths, of Milton Butterman, Leo Butterman, Elizabeth Beck, Barnett Bernstein, Hattie Kahn Karb, Faye B. Cohen, David Adam Dorantes, Ernest Friedson, Louise Gaston, Fanny L. Ginsberg, Max Granick, Esther Frindell Hoffman, Nathan Imber, Elliot Jacobson, Selma Krause, W.P. Kruckman, Hugh Lammensdorf, Sam Levy, Morris Lulke, Lily Bogan Morris, Jeff Orlow, Francis Schechter, Sarah Schwartz, Daryl Slater, Audrey Sloter, Jean Strassman. To support those in mourning, we all rise. We join together for these and all who are past and have none to offer Kaddish for them but us, as we join together to affirm life with the words of the Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei Rabbi, v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chaye chon uv'yomei chon, v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal v'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbi mevarach, Leolam u'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala. Shmei d'kudsha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiram b'yamal v'imru amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. May the source of peace bring peace and wholeness to all who are in mourning, all who remember. Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be for blessing. As we say together, Amen. Please be seated. At the end of our service, I hope you will remain and join us in Kiddush and Motzi. Do we have anything special to announce about this week's Motzi? Pumpkin challahs, little pumpkin challahs, right? Everybody gets a pumpkin challah home. I've met 2 or 3 people who don't like pumpkin. I'm trying to understand that. If so, don't worry, I'll be happy to take yours home. So I'm very, very appreciative. Linda, thank you. I need to call out Linda. It's a mission of love that with COVID, of course, we're not ripping open and eating big challah. And she said, well, I'm going to bake mini challah so everybody can take a challah home. So thank you very, very much, Linda, for bringing that joy to us. On our way out, you can stay to say Shabbat Shalom or run or whatever, but we do have snacks outside and we do greet if you're comfortable, and I thank her and all of you for being this Shabbat and all of you at home. So this year we don't have the inflatable costumes. Maybe next year, now that the formal somber part of our service, the serious portion is over, I need to say to all of you assembled that at this time last year, it was an empty sanctuary. It was me, it was John, it was Hans, and it was the cameras. And John, Hans, and Jared came in during Kaddish. They ran out, and they put in those big inflatable costumes, and the room was empty, but they were walking in like this. It was amazing watching an octopus or whatever you were playing the organ. It was wonderful. But I started laughing during Kaddish, so I apologize. My sisters will never let me live that down. At least a few of the many hits on YouTube are my siblings watching me over and over. It was a moment of weakness. So we finished the service. A little more subdued this year, but we do want to take a few minutes to acknowledge this time of year. There really is no Jewish holiday where you acknowledge Jewish superstitions. It doesn't exist. So we make this time of year our own. I've heard it spread. I'm told there are a number of other rabbis in the Metroplex who told me this week when I said I'm still trying to spread the word. They said, we do it too. So there you go. And I will say that I actually do get 3 or 4 emails every year at this time from rabbis who say, do you have a good Jewish ghost story? So we join together to get in the mood. We share a couple of ghost stories as we change into the joy of this time with a little bit of Hallows-ish, whatever we're calling it, mood. Thank you so much, Hannah. It's wonderful. So, I want to tell you first about something real that I learned about this week, because you can't tell the same stories all the time. There is a curse, and it is called pulsa de nora. That's Aramaic for lashes of fire. There are old references to this. This part's a true thing, and then in a moment we'll go off into an actual story. But pulsa de nora, while it's mentioned as a sort of curse in mystical Jewish circles, is not really Kabbalistic, but 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, it started being used in Israel as an older thing that comes from the Zohar, even though it probably doesn't. And the idea is, in the ultra-Orthodox world, this is a real thing. And the idea is you get 10 people together, and they gather at midnight, and they light black candles, and they blow the shofar, and they share this curse formula. And this formula, which you put on your enemies, means that your sins are never forgiven. which we know is really contrary to everything we know about Judaism. And there is a debate right now in Israel from people who say it's nonsense, there's no such thing, to other people who say it is a real thing. And it turns out that it is so common that every few years, or in the last 2 years, every few months, whenever there was an election taking place in Israel, someone in the Haredi world would say, we've put a pulsa de Nora on this candidate. And the joke because as I was looking for ghost stories about pulsa de Nora, I could find very few. What I found were they put a pulsa de Nora on Naftali Bennett. They put a pulsa de Nora on this one. They put a pulsa de Nora on this political party. But the rabbis would remind them, if you pick someone who's righteous, it backfires on you and you get cursed forever, as a sort of warning sign. So, in a village, there was a man named Shimon always trying to form a minyan for Kaddish on Shabbat. And in this small village where people were constantly preparing for Shabbat and they could never get enough people on Friday night, Shimon would constantly see Yitzchak walk by just at dusk. And he would say, Yitzchak, come in, we're short of a minyan. To which Yitzchak would go, I have to be somewhere, and walk away. Every week, Shimon would say, why aren't you here? We are making a minyan. We are comforting the mourners. Shame on you. To which Yitzchak would say, I have somewhere else to be. And he would walk away. Finally, having had enough of this, he came before the Rabbi and said, Rabbi, I want you to pull out a pulsa de Nora on Shimon, on Yitzchak. I want you to curse him. To which the Rabbi said, please, Shimon, you don't know what you're talking about. Rabbi, I want to curse him. If you curse Yitzchak, it will only make your life miserable, for he is one of the righteous. Nonsense, Rabbi, you must help me. Finally, the Rebbe said, Shimon, stop, I don't want to hear another word. But like most Rebbes, he didn't give an explanation. He just left. And so later that night, Shimon got together and collected 9 other of the righteous. He brought them into the synagogue when no one was there. He took out these black candles. He brought the shofar. He gathered everybody together. They blew the shofar. And Shimon said, angels of destruction, may he, Yitzchak, be damned wherever he goes. His soul will leave his body, and he will not survive a month. Dark will be his path, and God's angels will chase him. A disaster he has never experienced will befall him, and all curses known in the Torah will apply to him. I deliver to you, Yitzchak, the angels of wrath and ire, that you may smother him. Put him to death. May his name be damned and damned and damned and damned. And now he was doing it. Suddenly the floorboards of the synagogue opened up. And suddenly Shimon was dragged down. And they could hear him screaming. They panicked. And they ran over. And they banged on the rabbi's door. Rabbi, 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 wake up. What? Can't wait till tomorrow. Come to the synagogue. It's awful. The Rebbe came over to the synagogue, and there he heard Shimon screaming, screaming from below. Follow the story. Shimon screaming from below. I should follow what's written down. Shimon screaming from below, save me, they're grabbing at me. The Rebbe said, what happened? He begged us. He told us to curse Yitzchak, and we did. And so we joined in a pulsa de Nora. You must help us overturn the decree. The Rebbe said, there is no overturning, for Yitzchak was a righteous one. Every Shabbos he would skip our minyan to leave bread to the orphans. And when you offer a pulsa de Nora on a righteous man, it turns on you. And so it is he, cursed forever by the souls of the dead. Wonderful. Yasher koach. Just one more story. Sometimes I go on and on about Jewish superstition, and I can see that not everyone shares my enthusiasm. So, a reminder that very little of this is in the Torah. Oh, there is one more story, though. No. I should have been very careful as the rabbi. All that meant is there's only 2 tonight instead of 3 or 4. But thank you very much. That's a joke on me for April Fools, I guess. No. There's one more, but I'm not going to go on at great length. But I did want to say that while very little of this is in the Torah, there's a great deal of this in oral tradition and in midrash and in later folk tales. So if it interests you, and if you haven't been here to suffer through the last 4 or 5 years of me teaching this, let me know and I'll be happy to get you the books and texts you can look to. But I do want to share one more. This is a new variation of a real superstition from, I think the story comes from Romania, but because they're oral traditions, they're traced from another place. So this is a new variation of an actual superstition that you know. And the superstition is that you knock on a synagogue late at night when no one's there. Now, I'd never heard that growing up, but the first time I told this story, there were other people who said to me, yes, I remember, I'm not making this part up. Yes, when they heard the story, they say, I remember my grandmother telling me, you always knock on a closed synagogue. I have not seen that done, but this is a real superstition. The question is why? There was a man named Shlomo who frequently worked in the fields till right before Shabbat, never stopping to get ready until the last minute. Every Shabbat he would come in, and sitting there in the sanctuary as Friday night services took place, invariably he would always fall asleep. And the rabbi, who got just a little bit irritated, would always go and shake him. Oh, Rabbi, I worked so hard. To which the rabbi would say, Shlomo, you're going to fall asleep in the synagogue, and the ghost of the mourners will get you. To which he'd say, Rabbi, are you so desperate for me to hear your sermon that you must tell some nonsense stories? And every week this went on, until one week when the Rebbe looked out at Shlomo, passed out, his mouth open on the side of the seat, and said, you know what? He needs the rest. I'm done waking him up. He went home, he locked the doors of the synagogue, he went to his wife, they had a nice dinner. Round about midnight, Shlomo wakes up. He looks in the synagogue. He's still in services. Only now, all of the other mourners seem bathed in a surreal kind of white. They're dancing together, and they all wear the same clothes. But upon closer inspection, he realizes it's not regular clothes, it's shrouds. And looking at their faces, he begins to recognize some of the mourners. But every one of them are not living mourners. They've been dead for decades. Panicking, he runs over to the window, bangs on the glass, tries to get out. Let me out, the doors are locked. The ghosts see him and in charge to move closer and closer. The mourners of the town pull at him. People hear him screaming one by one. They go over to the doors of the synagogue. They bang open the doors. He runs there. They pull him out just as the hands are grabbing him. Somehow Shlomo is grabbed. The doors are locked. The ghosts disappear. It's not told where they came from or where they went, but Shlomo was reminded that at midnight every Shabbat, past mourners of the congregation gather to join together in prayer and worship. And most important of all, no one ever fell asleep in services again. Thank you. Before Kiddush and Motzi, we conclude with a couple of final songs. By the way, the stories may be newer, but the superstitions and curses are all real. I don't make this stuff up, even if you think I do. Before we conclude with Kiddush and Motzi, we have a couple songs. Song number 1 can be found on the back. It has been argued that the werewolf is the most Jewish of creatures. There are stories about the Baal Shem Tov rescuing children from wolves. That part is true. But the werewolf is not necessarily Jewish, but there actually was an essay written that the werewolf is the most Jewish of creatures because it hides its identity and it fears for its life, and ultimately it's just a misunderstood wolf who just wants to survive and be left alone to live. By the way, if you ask some parents, they'll tell you that 13-year-old boys are a little bit like werewolves, and thus bar mitzvah, and maybe that's the Jewish origins. I don't know. But anyway, that's my attempt to make this song in honor of the recently departed Warren Zevon. Let's take it away. Saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. He was looking for the place called Lee Ho Folks. The dish. Oh, werewolves of London, Jerusalem. Oh, werewolves of Jerusalem. When you hear him calling on your kitchen door, you better not let him in. Werewolves of London, Jerusalem. Oh, werewolves of Jerusalem. From Kent. Lately he's been over and away.
You ripped your thumbs out, Jim.
Werewolves.
When I saw Lord Jamie walking with the Prime Minister,
Doing the werewolves. Sergeant Cheney Jr.
walking with the Prime Minister. Oh, giving the
Wolves of London. And Jeff Kaser reminds me that Warren Zevon was Jewish, Zichrona Levracha, may he be remembered for blessing. Our closing song, page 625, Adon Olam. You know this tune. Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Adon Malach. B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Yecharech yichlot hakol levadon yimloch nor v'hu haya v'hu yeh b'tifara hu echad v'ein sheni laham shilo lahach bira b'li reshi b'li tak v'lo ha'oz v'ham mizrach Adon Olam Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Adon Olam. V'hu eli v'chai gol v'tzorch eli v'ein sar v'hu nisi manos minat kosi b'yom mikra Adon b'yein tisha v'ali v'im ruchi geviyat Adon ali v'lo ira Adon Olam, Olam. Page 123, all right? Shabbat Shalom. Let's join together in the blessing over wine, and the pumpkin challah is awaiting us outside. I want to wish you all a wonderful Shabbat, a Shabbat of peace and rest. And if someone comes by your door on Sunday night, don't be that guy, okay? All right, I was one of those people in New York City ringing the doorbell with nobody answering their door on Halloween, so don't be that guy. Let's join together in the blessing over wine. Borei Puri Gafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher shanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu Shabbat Kodsho B'yavav Ratzo Inhilanu Zikaron L'Maseh Reshit Ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher l'tziyat Mitzrayim ki vanu vacha ata v'otanu kidashta mikohamim v'shabbat kodshecha Be'avahu v'ratzon yinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh Shabbat Chaim and the blessing over bread. There is? Oh, there's a Chaim. Look at that. It's mysteriously appearing. Here we go. This one happens to be wrapped. Hermetically sealed. Please join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Thank you very much.
Have a great week.
Thank you. You too.